Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Marvin, for the welcome and the intro. And I would again thank Stephen for inviting me here for the second time. Last time I was speaking in a smaller room. This time it's a bigger room, so maybe something must have gone right. All right. So today's topic is about building your ideas with AI. AI is all the buzz now. I'm sure you must have used some of the AI applications. I'm going to try and give you something more from the talk today, something that you might have not already tried. So I hope you take something positive from the talk today. And it's going to be a very practical talk. I will try my best to not bore you with any of the theories. I think it would be too rude if I just start without my proper introduction. My name is Darshan. Marvin pronounced it correctly. Usually people in Germany, they find it very hard to pronounce my name because of the R sound. But it's okay. I do not bite. I love my German friends. I am a head of design at HighGraph. HighGraph is a Series B headless CMS startup based here in Berlin. The company is fully remote, but we are about 85 people now, and we have an office in Berlin. But I think of it more of a luxury for people who live in Berlin because we can go to office when we want. Otherwise, we are just supposed to work from home or wherever we find it comfortable because the rest of the company is remote anyway. When I'm not doing my full-time job, I'm working on various side projects, but Product Disrupt is one of my main side projects. It's a simple website where you can find list of resources to teach yourself design from the internet, absolutely for free. Along with it, there's also a newsletter which I've been sending for 7 years now. So the governments do come and go, but my newsletter is the only constant. Uh, when I'm not doing these things, I like to travel quite a lot. And moving to Europe has been great because Europe is so well connected, no borders here. You get very good amount of opportunities to travel and see some unusual places. I like to go to unusual places, hear from people who are not from the same background. I like to hear their unusual stories, and then I like to tell the same stories with my own twist on it. And I'm also always working on side projects. This talk is very relevant to that. AI gives you a great opportunity to keep experimenting with things that you really are passionate about. I'll start with a very bold statement. Well, it's not really a bold statement. It's more of a realization. For me personally, because I'm a designer, I've always found myself that I've been quite restricted because oftentimes I have to depend on others to build my ideas, usually the engineers, because they can write code. And I'm sure for most of you, you might also have a lot of ideas on speed dial. If I ask you right now, you might have a few ideas that you want to build. And for a long, long time, we just had no way of building those ideas. That is, especially if it requires any sort of software and hardware as well. So we often rely on other people. Sometimes it's a great collaboration, but a lot of times it's very restrictive. And I think now with AI, it is giving us an opportunity to try and tinker with those ideas and see what becomes of it. So I want to give you some useful tips about that today. And as I said, you must have, because this is a tech conference, most of you might have already used some sort of AI tools, and you already know the obvious use cases like talking to AI, brainstorming about the ideas. You can also do a reverse way where if you're a product manager, you have written a PRD, a project specification document, and you want to get feedback on that. You can feed that into AI, you can get feedback. When I'm traveling, actually very recently, I wanted to look at some of the places to hike. I've been to a lot of them. I wanted to find something new. And AI was a great brainstorming partner. I kept on asking questions. AI kept on giving me some great recommendations of places to hike. Usually, the old process would have been going on the internet, finding a lot of different websites, videos, and then you somehow get something. But it's a very time-consuming process, and you can't really chat with anyone. You can't really get your point through. So those are very obvious use cases. I'm sure you must have already tried one or the other. Chat GPT is already a household name in the tech now. Everybody uses that. So I'm not going to bore you with any of that. Let's look at another use case of AI. So Versal recently came up with this tool called V0. It's an amazing tool to build front-end applications, or at least the components of the front end. So whenever you build an application, there are usually two parts to it: front end, back end. Front end is what you see. Back end is where all the logic lies. And V0, you can also write logic over here, but this is really trained to help you out with building front-end components, or even building landing pages. Just to take an example here. So here I was just, for the sake of this session, I went to V0 and I asked V0 to help me build a landing page which is going to feature the top sites to visit in Berlin in the autumn season. Spring and autumn being my favorite seasons. I love the colors of autumn. So I just asked V0 to build something like that. And I think it only took like, so by the way, this GIF over here or video, it's not speed up. It's the normal speed. It is that fast. It just created this simple landing page for me, which had the basic content. Didn't even have to think of that. So forget about lorem ipsum. You can have some real copy, and of course, what I got here is not something that I'm just going to go and post it on the internet. The recommendation that this is giving me is very generic. I of course need to refine it, brainstorm with it, but it at least gave me a good starting point. And another beautiful thing about tools like this is you think of any idea and any structure that you come up with. Like a lot of times you can draw basic wireframes. You take pen and paper, you would create a basic structure of how you're envisioning something, and you can also just upload that image, and this V0 tool is going to build you out the landing page based exactly on your structure. And if things don't go right, of course, you can ask the tool to tweak it, and it's going to make those changes for you. Just to tell you that there are many ways that you can play with these tools. And for designers or for people who have a little bit of experience with designing mockups in Figma, or creating it through templates, you can also then export the JPEG PNG file from there, feed it into V0, and it's going to build out that exact landing page for you. It's not going to be very accurate, but with a few tweaks, downloading the code from there, making some changes to it, you are going to be there in a very short time. Now, one thing that I didn't like about this was it gave me this. It gave me the website without any images. And for me, I'm a very visual person. I can make sense of things when I see things visually. So it did give me those placeholder boxes for the images, but I wanted it to also have some images added to the whole layout. So then I asked it, I just went on and provided another prompt or query saying that, can you also upload images in this website? And let's see what AI was able to do with that. So you can see that it's already taking images from Unsplash. So I did specify that because Unsplash is a free resource. There are images to use for free from that tool. So I specified the AI to use the images from Unsplash, and you can see it already started scraping the Unsplash site and then providing the images. And this is what it came up with. Notice one thing, this is definitely not Tiergarten. And this is definitely not East Side Gallery. And some images are not even populated, so maybe the links are wrong. So just to tell you that AI is not perfect. You don't have to be worried that it's going to put you out of the jobs. It gives you some random data a lot of times like this, and people always complain that AI also hallucinates. It likes to party a lot like Berliners and then next day hallucinating. But the beauty of this is it has already given me the structure of how I can import the images. I can put the images there. All I really need to do now is take this code, put it into any of my favorite tools like VS Code, Sublime, and just replace those URLs of the images, which I'm going to manually find on Unsplash. And then designers are also very picky that way. We are known for our taste. So whenever it comes to picking something, we always like to do it ourselves. So that is what I would do. I would go to Unsplash and find relevant images. And of course, I'm not going to keep this generic content about East Side Gallery and Tier Garden and stuff. I'm going to create something very custom. But it has already given me that starting point. And just imagine if I had an idea of creating a side project where people visiting Berlin, they're asking me what should they do in this time of the season, what are some spaces that they should be looking for. I can create this website, I can make it public, people can have a nice source of inspiration there. All right, now let's look at another tool. So there's a company called Cloud. They came up with this new coding assistant called Cursor. They also got the domain cursor.com. I don't know how did they manage that. They probably paid millions of dollars for that because they're a Silicon Valley company. But anyways, so another beautiful use case of Cursor is code debugging. Now here, I added the HTML index file of my website product disrupt, and I wanted to make some changes to it. So when you go to product disrupt, there's a form where I collect the email addresses so that I can send you the newsletter. It would have been hard for me to go through the code, especially if I have not written that code, to find out how exactly the email capture is happening. And I can tell you by experience, I do a lot of mixing and matching with the code that I write because I'm not a professional developer. I'm still a designer. So a lot of times when I write something and if I look at it 2-3 weeks from now, I cannot make sense of what I've written there. So I just asked Cursor to give me the code where the email capture is happening. So it just went and searched in the file and gave me this code, and it also explained each line to me of what about what the code is really doing and how it's really working. So for the sake of this session, I've taken a very simple example. This is not how you would be working with code when you create real applications. In most cases, you would have a larger code base. There would be multiple files. They would be depending on each other, talking to each other. In those cases, when you need to make sense of it, it's really very time consuming to understand what's really happening there. So then you can ask this question, and it's not just going to search in the single file. It is going to search through the whole code base if you ask it to do that. And it will give you the perfect understanding of how it really works. So I like to think of this tool like the staff level engineer that is always ready to answer all my questions, never gets tired. So works just like an intern, but has all the knowledge of a staff engineer. Now, what I really wanted to do after debugging this code was to change this code to a new email service provider. So I was using MailBlast, and then I wanted to move to ConvertKit because ConvertKit had a plan with a lot of subscribers and it was for free. I'm cheap that way, so I just wanted to move my email service provider. And here I'm just asking Cursor to give me the code to change this MailBlast subscription to ConvertKit. So it did write me that code, and it has given me the placeholder IDs for the email list, my account ID from ConvertKit. It's not going to know all of that, right? But it did tell me that these are the things that I have left just as placeholder for you. You are supposed to go to that tool and then get those IDs and then put it here. So it is also going to tell me what to do over there. Goes to show that you can get really far talking to this AI assistant and writing code that way. And I'm not telling you to, I'm not saying that you are going to be, what do you call, the FANG engineer by using these tools. But this is your gateway into learning a bit of programming and trying to take a shot at building your own ideas. I want to give you an example. This is a Duolingo clone that a friend of mine, Graham Fulton, who runs a design publication called Prototyper, he's always tinkering with tools like this, and he was able to build this Duolingo clone just within an hour. And it's very simple the way this clone works. He took all the assets from the Duolingo application, put it into a put it into a Figma file, because here it's not a commercial application, it's more for fun. So you could do that. And then he put all those assets inside the Figma file. When I say assets, it's just the images and button styles and those things. He put it into Figma, went on to Cursor, asking Cursor to take those assets from the Figma file and to start coding the simple front end for it. So once he had the front end, meaning just a simple HTML, I'm not sure if he built this in HTML or maybe it was Next.js, but anyways, so he just went on asking the tool to first build the front end, and then once the front end is ready, he wanted to apply some logic to it. For the demo sake, he just wanted to have like one exercise of Duolingo application, and he was able to build that. He did not really write much code himself, but because he's an engineer, he could understand how those things are working, and he could instruct the AI to do it nicely. When you want to start out trying something like this, I would actually recommend you to just copy exactly how people on the internet are making this demo applications, because that gets you into the rhythm of working with these tools. You don't really have to use your brain about how these things are working. Just do the copy work, and then later you would see that once you get a gist of it, you can experiment with it and you can get much further with it. All right. I want to give you one useful tip if you decide to use Cursor after this talk. Some nice people on the internet made this website called Cursor Directory. It's just a simple collection of templates instead of rules that you can apply into Cursor, so that it would make sure it uses the programming best practices, it uses the code in the right formatting. And this has been categorized based on the languages, based on the kind of applications that you want to build. So is your application a database heavy application? Is it just a simple front-end application with just little bit of backend required? So you can just take this rules from here, and it's called rules. There's a file that you can make in Cursor called anything.cursor rules. Once you paste it over there, this will already train your AI to behave a certain way. So it's like you being the parent of the AI, giving it the instructions and now telling the AI to behave. And the results of this, by when you apply the Cursor rules, the results are significantly different. So much recommend to try that out. Now let's move on to something visual. So there's this tool called Runway that I use to create simple cinematic videos. So prompt is very simple over here. I asked the tool to give me a tracking shot of a bear passing through the Brandenburger Gate in the autumn season. First, it gave me the result that it gave me on top. That was the first generation. I didn't really like that. It felt very boring. The second one, I made some improvements to it, just tweaked the copy, the prompt a little bit. And once you start using these tools, you're going to learn a few things about the video making, photography, cinematography, those things as well. Because here, I do have to specify that give me a tracking shot. You can obviously create very different kind of shots: low angle, high angle, wide angle. And Runway has a directory where it would tell you what are the kind of prompts that you should use to get a specific kind of result. And you don't really need to be Christopher Nolan to understand that. There are good examples over there. And with just that simple prompt, I was able to get this. There are two ways to work with videos here in Runway. You can also provide this is purely based on text. So AI can be a little creative over here. But if you have an image that either you have shot yourself or you have generated through AI, you can then submit that image over here and ask the AI to make that into a video. And it would also work that way. So there are many ways that you can tinker with these tools. Now, I'm definitely not getting any awards or any sort of film awards for this kind of videos, but it's a start, right? Maybe someday I'll get there. Let's look at another tool for image generation, Visual Electric. I've been very careful of giving you the tools that are not the accepted norm yet, and tools that have been really created for the specific purposes. So Mid-Journey, a lot of people know about it. It's a great tool for image generation, especially fantasy image generation. But Visual Electric is, I think, the first and the only kind of tool which is like a canvas-based design tool, uh, which helps you with image generation. It gives you different styles as well. So it helps you out with describing your prompts. And with AI, you have to be very descriptive. Um, so here again, I tried to create the same bear passing through Brandenburger Gate, and I'm much happy with the results here. I should have probably taken this image and put it into Runway and see what the video results were. Uh, Here, the beautiful part about this is once you have generated the images, a lot of time people complain that you don't get consistent results with AI. And with AI, it doesn't exactly understand what you want. So you just have to accept the results. But with Visual Electric, I think they're changing that. Think of it like a Photoshop, but you have a creative director on your side. You are just passing on the instructions over his shoulder, and he's going to do the work for you. So here, it's very similar to using any design tool, but instead of doing it yourself, you're doing it through prompts. So you are actually writing those things out. And there are nice features, like you can highlight certain part of the images and say, change this a little bit. Like I can say, I will circle the bear and I will say mix into a fox, and then it will do that for me. I can say remove the background. So all those things would also be very easily done, which is very hard with many other tools. And a great application for this right now is in a lot of designs that I create when I need images. I don't always have to go to Unsplash. I can generate my own. With that, I actually went ahead and created a side project based entirely on this concept. So a lot of times when I'm traveling, I come across some places that start living rent free in my heart because for some reason it really touched me, and I find those places really beautiful. There's some story associated with it, and I wanted to uh, apply some mixed reality on those places. So I came up with this idea of a project called AI Escapes, where I took the places that I had visited and applied my own imagination to it. So the way that I created this ink and watercolor postcard is entirely by prompting the scene. So I did not provide any image input. I provided everything via description, and you can think of it like it's 70 to 80% reality and 20 to 30% imagination. So this place, they actually exist, but they don't exist in the exact form. Like, to give you an example, you see this orange one over here, it's Stonehenge in UK. I was just imagining what if this was at a golden hour and there were Draculas flying over it, and I got something like somewhat similar to Dracula. I can't really make sure what exactly those creatures are, but they are small anyway, so they look like Dracula. So I did this with about 24 places, and these are all free to download. So here's the QR code. You can just scan the QR code. It will take you to a landing page where you can just download this for free, and you can use it however you want. You can use it as wallpapers. You can print it. It doesn't really matter. My hope with this is when I give this to people, they actually feel inspired to visit those places. And with that, I actually went ahead and made this into a physical product as well. So AI doesn't have to be all software. You can also take it a step further. So what I did in this case was, uh, when I went to India, visit my family, I went to a lot of different print shops over there, and I wanted to print this out as postcards. It's not a commercial project, it's just something that I do for fun. But I really wanted this to have the feel of those vintage postcards. So I visited about 20 odd print shops to get the exact quality of paper and the print. And this is what I was able to get. And I've been giving this to some of my friends. It's always amazing the kind of response that I get from them, and especially when they feel the paper and how it really inspires them to look at those images and maybe also visit them. Uh, there's a little giveaway here. At the end of this talk, you will have some time to ask questions. Whoever would ask me a good question, this is yours. I'm going to close this talk out with a choice for you. So whether you like it or not, AI is changing the way we do things, and just within I think a couple of years, things are going to look very different. Uh, but I don't think it's something to be really be afraid of. It's not a dystopian thing. You can make it whatever you want it to be. Uh, so I would say you have a choice here. You can either embrace the AI and move ahead, or you can choose not to embrace the AI and be outpaced by those who are using it. So people always say that AI is going to replace your job. I don't think so. It's the people who are using the AI is going to replace your job. And I just wanted to give you this examples, different ways to use these tools, so you can make something out of it. And it's really for you to decide what you really want to do with it. I hope that is your takeaway from it, and not really being afraid of AI. With that, das ist alles.
All right, so we're going to start with the Q&A. So who has any questions for Dashan? I'll start over here, and I think we have enough time to do a couple of questions, so don't worry.
Hi, my name is Zofia. Thank you for the talk. It was very interesting. Very, as you said, practical. I have a question about the cursor specifically. It looked like a interesting tool to help engineering teams, especially with new joiners who might join not being familiar with the code. That will help kind of learn and understand what they're working with. But do you know what's the situation ultimately? Privacy of what you're inputting into the tool, considering now we're talking about the company AP.
Yeah, I think all these tools, they do make you sign the terms and conditions, and they do give you an option whether you want to keep your code private or you want to make it open for the training data. So just like that, cursor also gives you the option. Though I'm not really going to vouch for that. I don't know how these tools really work. A lot of times we have seen that companies like Meta, they get into lawsuits for things like this, where your IP is sometimes stolen. Uh, Very interesting example. Figma also created a way to generate designs by prompting, and they had an option of explicitly saying that you want your data to be used for training. And a lot of times it generated the designs which were based on someone else's work, and they did not opt for the training. So it's very new right now. You can't really be sure if what they have committed to, they're actually going to be true to that. And I think I'm not assuming any malicious intentions over here. I think they're also new to it. They also don't know how some things are going to work. They're trying it out. So if this is a big matter of concern for you about privacy and not using any of your intellectual property, then I think it's better to wait it out and not use that. But I personally don't care much about it. It's like they're not going to take some of my code from here and create a competitor, because creating a competition is not just writing code. You have to make a lot of things work. And another thing is, if it's not something that's already there on the internet, meaning it's like some sort of secret NSA kind of data, then there's just no point of worrying. If it's on the internet, it can all easily be scraped. People are anyways looking at that, so I don't care much about it.
Great. So you had another question, right?
Thanks a lot for the talk. What is the most annoying limitation that you see in these applications, especially when you go behind this, setting up a website, but rather going towards building web applications and more complex stuff?
Yeah, great question. Been annoyed by
thanks
this.
for the postcard.
Been annoyed by this many times. So the most annoying part for me is that a lot of times it can feel limiting in the way it's like, if you took it for the fact that you are not a coder and you cannot you cannot write code, you cannot build application, you'll make your peace with it. But you get a taste of it, and then you want more, and then you're annoyed that why can't you take it all the way further? And that was the complaint with a lot of no-code applications. Similarly, in this, you can get pretty far with the AI-based coding as compared to no-code tools. But then, of course, there's a limitation. It will then slowly get you into the territory of having to learn a lot more other technical things than what you just hope for, because you anyways did not know how these things are built. So it gives you that taste. And a lot of times, if you just run into the same problem over and over again, then it can get very annoying. But the beautiful part about this is it gives you a gateway into building something. And once you have started something, now the motivation is much higher to take it through, rather than if you would have not started anything, of course you had no motivation. And then that also teaches you about the tech stack, about technical concepts, and I think that's the way to learn. So even though that's the most annoying part for me, but I think that's also very challenging and very motivating to do that. One tip I will just give you with that: always try to work with different LLMs, different AI-based tools. So if you are coding with Cursor, you are going to get into stages where it's going to give you same redundant output every time. It's not going to understand what you really want to build. It's going to get stuck. And in that case, you should actually either open a new chat, go to ChatGPT, go to Cloud, go to these other tools, and just input the same thing. You would realize that a lot of times the output would be very different, and it might actually solve your problem because the perspective is different. So it's strange, but AI are also working like humans that way. It does get into a rut when you just keep on asking the same thing. You just move to someone else, they have a different perspective, so it works that way. And there is a community of developers. Internet is still a place which is very helpful, I would say. Joining those communities, asking those questions over there, people are really helpful with that. So that's annoying, and also maybe a way to help you out with that.
Okay, I'll give it. This hand went up really quickly.
Just want to ask a question that relates to something you just mentioned, different models. So I've been using Cursor as well and love it. I've only been using ChatGPT. I've seen you use Claude in your screenshots. Do you have a general idea which model works better for like general purpose code gen debugging?
Yeah, I mean, ChatGPT is great for any general purpose thing. It doesn't have to be anyhow related to code. It's just great general purpose AI. But this AIs like Cloud and Cursor and any of the other tools, they're like a wrapper on this same AI models, and they have already been trained to do a lot of the use case specific things. So with Cloud and with Cursor, they were very specific that they wanted this to be a coding assistant, a co-pilot. So in my experience, I was trying to write some code with ChatGPT as well. It was really good. I was able to debug a few things, create some basic snippets for some of the code that I was writing. That can happen in ChatGPT as well. But I realized that I had to do a lot of training. I had to send a lot of prompts to get ChatGPT to a stage where it would give me the correct results. But with Cloud, Cursor, it was just like they were trained from the very beginning, so right. I didn't have to do that.
What I was referring to in Cursor, you can select the model you want to use, right? So I was just wondering if you have tried switching that, right? It's still within Cursor at that point.
Right. No, I've not really tried switching the models over there. And I think what is the Cursor model called? Sonnet, something like that, right?
So in Cursor, I don't know. I think what I've seen is default is ChatGPT, but you can switch to some other models like Claude. I've never tried it myself, so I was just wondering if you have some experience with that.
No, I have not tried tweaking that. But what based on what I've been reading on the internet, they say that, I think, I don't want to mispronounce it. I think it's called Sonnet or Sonnet. That is the model that they have. And people are saying that that's really good for coding. So I would, good that you reminded me. Next time I'm going to switch that up.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, just go on.
Okay, so yeah, I come from a business background, so I guess that's why I'm making this question. But I keep seeing these tools pop up and they're super useful, but I always wonder, like, how are they monetizing users? So do they have like a freemium model? Do they do stuff with your data? Like, how are they monetizing?
The best part of all these tools that I just showed you, they all have a freemium model. I usually do not pay for tools before they do something good for me. So all of this, they have the freemium model, and you can get pretty far with it just using the free models with image generation, video. They all have the freemium model, and then of course you need to pay to get to a premium version, so you can have more generation. In a way, it's a good thing that they already have those plans, because then you know that you're paying for the tool, so you are not the what do you call, you are not the product, right? Because other tools, when they just give you everything for free, they use your data in some malicious way. So that is how I've seen this. But you should try these tools just for free. And I think I would just make one suggestion here. Only go and upgrade the tools which really work out for you. And it's good to actually be very specific with the use cases. Like, you can have ChatGPT generate the images, write the code, use it for any general purpose use case, but the results are going to be limiting that way. So if you want to be a little bit serious about it, then you should try paying for this separate tools. But for basic purpose, do not pay for any of them.
Amazing. We have some more time, so I think we can do both questions. We'll start over here.
Thank you for the presentation. My question is that you have a background in the design, but you haven't really mentioned anything UI related, like Gen AI stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering, like, do you have like really good tips maybe like on that end? Like, I understand that maybe you don't want your job to be replaced by AI, but just wondering, like, because I'm also looking for good like end-to-end solutions for generating UI assets.
Yeah. With the UI, so one reason that I did not feel very inspired to try that is because I think I can do a better job than AI at generating those UI, because that's literally what I do for money. So that was one reason. But I did try some of the tools, especially there were this early concepts from a company called Diagram, which was acquired by Figma. What I realized was that it gives you very basic structures for UI, like you saw in V0 as well. It was a very basic landing page. For people who are not into tech, or people who are not into design, who don't like a lot of aesthetic things, they can do with it. But I would want to add my taste to it, give it a nice branding. So these tools, they were not good at getting any further. They just give you the basic structure. Think of it like a boilerplate or a starter template. And what I have realized is that there are a lot of these templates anyway available on the internet. You call them starter kits, UI kits. And I personally never start my design from a blank canvas. I always start from a template, and then I customize my way through it, and then it becomes entirely new. But it just gives me the base to quickly get started. And I've realized that that is much more useful to me than any AI generation for UI. So that hasn't changed for me. That process is still the same. Though I think that it's good for early prototyping. Like, if there's just some concept that I want to test out and I want to be quick with it, in that case, I would directly try and create something in V0. And I would actually not use any generative tool that just gives me the UI. Like, tool inside Figma, you'd probably just get the UI. I find that to be very useless personally. So if you are giving me the generative, if you're giving me the base, at least give me something that's written in code and that I can interact with. That simple static page, it doesn't take me much time to do that.
That's kind of a problem, right, with Gen AI. Like, I mean, you can generate separate assets, but connecting them and creating end-to-end solutions, that's, I think, a bit more challenging.
Exactly,
Like, I mean,
and that's why one of my one of the main reasons to look at this more for concept development than the final product. With these tools, I'm able to do some things that I was not able to do on my own. So creating these early prototypes and concept and understanding how these things work. That I've found out to be a good use case. But once you want to make it into a legit product, you find a monetizing angle to it, then you want to make it into a startup, maybe raise funding, then of course you want to add a lot of bells and whistles to it. You want to really make it stand out.
Thank you.
Great. Okay. Well, you've raised your hand the whole time. I'll just move over there, and that will be our last question in terms of time.
Thank you so much for your talk. You talked a lot about how to build things, but as I'm coming from a product background and I'm thinking a lot about the what and why, so kind of the discovery aspects, talking to like a lot of users, deriving impactful problems, and then coming to like a solution and then thinking about the how. So like, since you're also a designer, like what tools really helped you navigate this discovery phase and like really sped it up? Because for me, I also tried a lot of things using ChatGPT as like a pretend to be a user, etc. But the output was not yet so good. So maybe you have some tips there to derive to the right thing to build.
Yeah, let me ask you two things to understand if I've properly understood your question. Are you asking about idea generation, so deciding what to build and coming up with new ideas to build products? Are you asking that, or are you asking me about something you already have an idea and now you want to do the brainstorming of how you go about it, doing a lot of user research around it, pretending, making ChatGPT pretend it to be a user, and then
Both.
Okay, all right. I'll try to keep this short. For the idea generation, I actually have like a whole workshop that I do around idea generation. It's usually coupled with my talk on side projects. And I'm very passionate about it, so that comes very naturally. For idea generation, there are a few methods that I can recommend. Purely when you do not know, when you want to start from scratch and you do not know what to build. A lot of times I suggest people to look internally, see what's annoying you on a day-to-day basis, and maybe you turned your blind eye towards it. You ignored it because you thought that maybe it's a problem too big to be solved, or maybe it's a problem that I'm not equipped to solve, and that's why you just ignore it and take it for granted, and then you just live with it. But then looking at those problems, then there are other ways to also source ideas. You can ask your friends what they're struggling with. So the skills that you have, they might not have, and that's why they don't see the obvious problems that they have. They don't see it as something to be solved, but you can help them out by solving that. And in this approaches, it helps you out identifying something that people actually want to be solved. If it's your own thing, you're scratching your own itch. Doesn't matter if other people are using it. You have still solved your own problem. Great satisfaction in that. When the other people have that problem, you know that you can really verify that problem with them. You can brainstorm with them, and you are helping them out. And then there's a user base for that. So of course you can make something bigger out of it. So there are ways like this, and there are also other ways like going on Reddit. There's a subreddit called make me this or something like that. Don't remember the exact name, but there people are just asking for solutions to problems, mundane problems, bigger problems, but they wish that something existed to solve that problem. That's your clue to try and solve that. There are also other tools like I think it's called Alternative 2. You can go on that site. You can look for things that people are searching for. So people are using some tools, but they're not happy with that, and they're looking for alternatives. That's your clue to try and build something in that space if it inspires you, because people already want that. So that is the whole idea generation part. Of course, there's more to it. When I do the workshop with you, you would end up with actual ideas and a plan of action to how get started with that, but not getting there. The second part of your question, I try to use ChatGPT as the brainstorming partner. Like it's like riffing off on ideas, and I try to also give it a reverse use case, meaning we usually go to ChatGPT to ask questions. Sometimes what I do is, if I already have a hypothesis about something, if you're into product, you have created a product requirement documentation, you have an idea of how you want to solve a problem, and now you want to pitch that idea to your stakeholders, to people that manage you, C-level. and you're not entirely sure how they're going to pursue this idea, what are the things that they're going to maybe catch that you haven't thought about, and you want to really have a completely thought out idea. You also want to look smart in front of them. That is, I find that is always the underlying human emotion. Anyway, so in that case, I go to ChatGPT and I submit that, the document that I've written or something, the hypothesis that I've already formed. And now I ask ChatGPT, you are a C-level person who is very annoying, who is always going to ask me questions about this few things. If I give him an idea about building something, he's going to always ask me, but how do we make money from it? And I'm not able to make that point. Can you help me think it through? Can you help me refine the idea? Then it's going to find the loopholes in my hypothesis, loopholes in my pitch. And those, I find that to be very useful, because instead of asking these people, you don't get access to this kind of people very easily, right? Having ChatGPT to feed this information and ask you questions helps you refine your thinking. And for me, that's the way that I think. When I write, I think. When I'm talking to someone, I think. If I'm just thinking on my own, my thoughts are very shallow that way. So I need some kind of feedback. So that's one. And then I also realized that there are some kind of prompts, like using ChatGPT for how would X respond to Y. So if you have a situation in mind, say you have a very important conversation coming up about discussing a product idea, and you don't know how this person is going to respond. And so you'd put the situation, the Y, and then you would say the X, the person, how are they going to respond when I tell them this? And if you train your model to be that exact person, so you highlight some of the traits, the personality traits they have, the things that they're looking into, what is their position in the company, then I've realized that it gets really very very direct and gives you this detailed questions which you would not find on a surface level. And this is my one suggestion to people. People get annoyed with these tools a lot of times because they don't put in the work. They think because they're using the AI, it's AI's job to do everything. But if you just spend a few minutes with that tool, having a conversation, training the model, when you get some responses, cross-questioning the AI on that, that is what you do with real people, right? And when you are serious about something, you spend some time with it. So I always suggest people to take at least 1 or 2 steps further than what you think people would usually do. Most people give up on first, second attempt. Just have one extra attempt, and that's when you get all these beautiful insights. I hope I was able to answer your question.
Yeah, and I'm sure that Dashan is able to answer more questions in breaks or afterwards. You're going to stay here for some time. So thank you very much again, Dashan, and give it up one more time.
Yeah.